Um, First of all, thank you all for having me. Thank you for inviting me to your group. It's very nerve-wracking. I'm not that great at public speaking, and I'm very shy and nervous. Very Was born very introverted, and for some reason I'm always thrown into these situations. They say that your calling isn't always your passion or what you're good at, but if you keep getting called to do it, then it's your calling, I guess. So hope everyone's doing well today. Hope you had a good week. Hope you had an even better weekend. Um, Sorry, I'm nervous, I'm terrified, but we're gonna get through this like we always do. So who am I and why am I here? My name's Miguel Juarez. As Bill said, I'm a father of 5. I'm a husband, musician. Also an Army veteran, a part-time Filipino translator, and I'm the president of the Columbus Jazz Society, which is a nonprofit organization that advocates for um, awareness, education, and access to jazz and the arts in our community. I was invited here to speak by my friend Amos Jones, who I met at one of our Jazz Society events. He's been a very active supporter of the Columbus Jazz Society and live music as well in the community. He's been very active in live music, for which we're all very grateful for, because music just makes everything better. You know. So to touch on what Bill has said, what is jazz? Most music genres, as we know, are products of specific culture or language even. Let's say, for example, Latin music, we associate it with Latin people, with Spanish language. Christian music, we associate with Christian people. Or Muslim people have Arabic music. So jazz, on the other hand, is a product of different cultures and different languages coming together to try to with a common goal, which is try to make good music, try to make it sound good. So how it started was people with different languages, they didn't even know how to speak to each other, but they could play music, so they could do something well together. So it's considered one of the original American art forms because that's pretty much the same concept the country was based on. People coming from different countries, different cultures, and figuring out together with a common goal of try to make it better for everyone. So in that sense, it's hard to say what if someone asks you what does an American look like. You know, most of us here don't look the same, but we can all say we're American. Or same with jazz. What does jazz sound like? It's different for everyone who plays it. Everyone who hears it has their own idea of what it's supposed to be. But we all just try to enjoy it at the same time. So before being invited here, I must admit I have not heard of the Unitarian Universalists, but from what little I've seen, what little I've read about it when I researched and talked to Bill, it's basically jazz. It's, it's basically we're trying to provide a refuge to be able to accept and elevate our fellow human being. That's it. Like wherever you're from, whatever your past is, whatever your beliefs are, we're all trying to have a good time here on earth. So let's just try to make it better for the next person, or with what we can to our abilities. So that being said, our goal is the same, is to connect with other people, to connect with another person, which is not always easy. We don't always have the same ideas, the same beliefs, but we're still trying to connect. We're still trying to make it pleasant for both parties. So we do that by building bridges. It's like, imagine every person is an island. They say no man is an island, but I guess with our phones now, we're kind of self-sufficient. They try to make us islands. I can get all my information here. I can get my interactions on my phone. So we're becoming more and more like islands. It's harder and harder to connect with another person. So we have to, like Bill said, actively do something. We have to actively build these bridges. They're not going to build their own. If anything, the waters are coming up, and what bridges we have built in the past are slowly sinking. So how do we build bridges? I came up with 4 steps, and they're not simple. They're very hard. These 4 steps, each step is even harder than the last one. And each of them is going to require a leap of faith. So imagine if there's 2 islands, you're trying to build the bridge from one to the other. As you're building a bridge, you can't just like build it straight. You have to start somewhere, build a little piece, and trust that that little piece is going to hold on as you build more on top of it. So you have to keep maintaining while you're trusting that it's going to work. So it's very hard to build a bridge. That's all I'm saying. So the first step to building a bridge is what I call discomfort zone networking, which is you're networking outside your comfort zone. So we all know that we have a comfort zone, which is the area where we're comfortable with. I'm comfortable hanging out with musicians, not talking in public like this. So this would count as a discomfort zone. Any successful person in any field will tell you that growth happens right outside your comfort zone. So wherever you're comfortable with, right outside of that, that's when you start learning. That's when you start growing. If you stay here, you'll be fine, you'll survive, but that's where you're at. For example, if you're exercising, if you can do 10 push-ups, if you keep doing 10 push-ups every day, that's all you're going to be able to do. Now, if tomorrow you try to do 11, that's not that much harder than 10, but from now on, you're going to be able to do 11. And if you do that every day incrementally, you can get better at whatever you're trying to do. Now, every successful person, let's say artist, musician, athlete, they tell you the other is true as well. Atrophy exists. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. So if you do 10 push-ups a day, you can keep that going. You can maintain it. But if you don't do it today, you might only be able to do 9 tomorrow. Then the next day you can only do 8 until, So it's important to keep staying active. Keep action because intention is good, but action is where it really happens. So another thing about your discomfort zone is you don't really have to try as hard around your area of expertise. So I'm sure when you were in school or at work, you didn't have to try that hard to find your friends. You just seem to run into each other. Because they say that birds of a feather flock together. So the people with the same interests are gonna run into you. Where you need to be looking or casting your bait is right outside of that. So like I said, I'm a musician. I'm comfortable around musicians. But this is somewhere where I'm not that great at yet. So I can improve more. So an example of discomfort zone marketing is just this. Just me agreeing. Amos inviting me to the UUFC and me saying yes without knowing what it is, what to expect. Just the act of agreeing. That's already going beyond your comfort zone. So number 2 is engaging and listening. So it's 2 parts. Engaging. I grew up in Manila, which is a city of around 10 million people. So it's very busy. It takes about 2 hours to drive 5 miles. So people don't usually smile at you. People don't say good morning. Like when you're walking around, if you catch someone's eye, they look back down or they go look straight. Not like here, if you accidentally see someone, they'll probably smile at you. They'll probably say good morning to you. So that's engagement. Engagement is just that smile, just saying good morning. It doesn't take that much effort to do it, but it makes a huge difference because you started something. You started not a conversation, but an engagement. So a simple smile can make something positive. If they don't smile, you start first, most likely they're going to smile back. Now, that's a smile can cause something positive. If it doesn't, so what? Just smile at the other person. Now, a frown will definitely cause something negative. If you frown at someone, you'll automatically give the other person a worse day than they already were having. So, and it takes more muscles to frown than to smile. So why not just, And another thing about that is the world has aesthetic standards. Everyone just looks better when they smile. Everyone. No matter how you look better when you smile. So the same person who will admire a butterfly will step on a cockroach. They're both insects. So one just looks prettier than the other. So might as well try, So for these standards, you can try. You're not always the best at everything, but you can at least try. If you're small like me, get a stage. If you have a weak voice, get a mic. Or if you're nervous, practice. And I say practice not in the sense of preparing, like I say it as in the sense of like a doctor or a lawyer. When they practice medicine, they're not preparing for a different surgery. They're doing it. So when I say practice, do it as if this is it. It's not a rehearsal for something. This is what I do. So I'm acting as if this is what I do, but well, fake it till you make it, they say. So the second part of that is listening, engaging in listening. Listening is easy, an easy concept to understand, but it's very hard to do because we all want to be heard. We all want our opinion. We all want the last say and stuff. But the words don't really do anything. It's mostly the action that speaks louder. If I tell you, if I'm your boss and I say, yeah, you can turn in these papers whenever you want. I said that you could do it, but my actions say that, yeah, just go ahead and try and turn them in late, So your actions will always speak louder. So let the other person speak. Let them say whatever they want and actually listen not to what they're saying, but to what they want, what they're trying to tell you. And in that way, you can actually do something about it to help. So engaging and listening, my example for that is talking to Amos Whitaker and Bill, finding out, researching what the UUFC is, finding out what they wanted me to speak about, or and learning the songs. So these are all research that I had to do to get to the next step, which is flexible execution. Now, it's two parts again, flexible execution. Flexible meaning you have to compromise on the small things. There's, when you're dealing with another person, another island, there's small things like you want it obviously to be easy. You want it obviously to be fast, and you want it to be cheap when you do anything in life. Those are three things. But you might have to compromise. The work might be a little harder than you expected. It might take a little longer than you thought. Or it might be more expensive or cost you more. But execution means there's something uncompromisable. Your big goal of getting from A to B. No matter what, you're going to get there. You compromise along the way as long as you stay steadfast to your goal of you want to build this bridge. It might not be made of the materials you wanted. It might be shaky. But you got there. You made it there. That you can work on top of it. Now, something I learned in the Army is Murphy's Law. They say that if something can go wrong, it will. So that's what you plan for. You already know you're trying to get from A to B. You already know there's going to be strong winds. You already know some of your, the people that are going to be working with you are going to be lazy. You know these things are going to happen. They're unavoidable. So you just plan. You have contingency plans alongside. So this is my example for flexible execution. I'm doing right now. It's not going exactly as I thought of in my head, but I think we're doing pretty well. And the last step, once you've completed the bridge, is continuity. Bridges take a long time to make, meaning that most people who plan and create bridges, they don't get to use the bridge. It's the next generation that gets to use the bridge. So by just thinking of making bridges, you are already in a servant's attitude. You want the next generation to benefit from this. So in that sense, you don't want it to just break down as soon as you stop looking at it. So you have to look at the formulas that you made to make the bridge, and you have to create training manuals, policy manuals to be able to teach this to the next generation of whoever's going to use the bridge. You have to teach them how to maintain it. And you have to keep a list of experts and contacts and have that available to them as well if they need help. So, and that's something that I've been asked of actually at some point by Amos in one of our music jams is, are you giving all my information out, giving all my tips out? Aren't you afraid that someone's going to take your job? And my answer is always no. Because if someone does take my job, I know, one, the work will continue. So I don't have to worry about that work. It's going to continue. Two, it's a legacy that you can pass on. It's something that you can be proud of, that, okay, this is something that I was doing, and now it keeps giving. And finally, you can either retire or you can move on to find something else you're useful at. So it's all good. There's no I don't understand the fear of losing your job to especially someone better, someone who's more energetic, or someone more suited for it. Because you can always move on to the next and find something better for you, find something more suitable. So that's it. Those are my four steps, and I hope we built some bridges today, but not just between the Columbus Jazz Society and the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, but between myself and each of you individually. And I hope you all keep taking leaps of faith. You already knew I was terrified coming up here, but that's my secret. I'm always terrified. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Questions?
Oh, does anyone have any questions about the Jazz Society or jazz comments? Yes, sir.
I'm coming.
In many years past, we've been advocates for the Jazz Society, but have kind of slacked off. Remind us, please, where it meets and when?
The Columbus Jazz Society meets every second Sunday, which is today of the month, at the Getch's house, 405 Broadway Avenue. It's the last house down Broadway. We meet at the downstairs at 4 p.m., and it's an open meeting. The board members are there, and it's open to the public. We talk about our plans and our upcoming events. And at 5 p.m., we have a concert. This Sunday's concert is blues musician Skylar Softly, who is Blues Hall of Fame from Alabama. And it's followed by an open jam session as well to musicians. So it's 4 p.m. at the Getch's house, 5 p.m. Concert. And we also meet there every Thursday, 7 to 9 for a jazz concert and jam.
Cost?
No cost. It's free to the public. There's a suggested donation of $10, but it's suggested. Everyone's free to come.
I spent several years in New Orleans, and of course, we heard of a lot of Dixieland jazz. And I'm just wondering, what is it about Dixieland jazz that's different from other jazz? What makes it uniquely Dixieland jazz? I know it when I hear it, but how do you analyze it?
To me, I analyze jazz usually by, like we were talking about culture, and Dixieland is usually New Orleans style. So a lot of the different styles of jazz is from not only the where the people came from doing it, it's also a lot of European influence mixed with the African American influence. It's also the instruments available to them. So the Dixieland style has a lot of marching band style instruments, as opposed to, let's say, Miles Davis cool jazz, they call it, which is fewer instruments like a piano, bass, drums, and saxophone. Dixieland would be more for marching stuff. So they have more horn sections. They have bigger marching band sections, pretty much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I totally loved your metaphor of the islands and the bridges and your words. Thank you very much. An appreciation of jazz that I never had before. Thank you. So this is my question. In your wisdom, how do you build a bridge? How do you even begin to build a bridge with somebody that doesn't want to build the bridge?
Well, in my very finite wisdom, very short time in this world, I feel like you can't build a bridge unless someone else has opened up to it as well. And now we all have our own timing and our own way of seeing how things operate in the world. So we may not know when the other island is ready to open up. We might think that they will never open up, or that it's way past due, that they should have opened up. But we can only go by our feelings and our experience. So we will never know when that island really will be able to open up. But in my experience, you can't have a bridge if not both parties are at least willing to listen to the other one. So it's a matter of time. Yes, ma'am.
And when I was in the Army back in the 50s, my MOS was percussionist. And so I played in the Army band. And one of the things that I did was play in a jazz combo that played all over southern Bavaria. And so I'm familiar with jazz. And one thing that interests me about it is how it permeates just about all of music that came along after jazz started. You go to the movies and the soundtracks and the orchestras. There's jazz in there, just about every time. The big symphony orchestras, they started incorporating jazz. All of the popular music, particularly back in the 40s and 50s and so forth, were forms of jazz, and a lot of it was very commercial, but it's very deep, and it's everywhere in modern music, and sometimes it's subtle, but sometimes it's outright jazz, and that's what people used to call modern jazz. And modern jazz appeals to a very small group of people, it appears. I never quite understood that. But for one thing, it demonstrates the quality of the musicians. And they improvise and they make up what they're going to play as they're playing it, which is an amazing thing to be able to do that and do it well.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, that's very astute observation on jazz. And jazz, I always thought that jazz is not a genre, but an approach. That you can be playing rock music and play it in with a jazz mindset. It's just is just being active, just acting on it. You may not have all the tools, you may not have be ready for it completely, but just the fact of jumping in and taking a leap of faith, I think that's jazz. Yes, ma'am.
When I was teaching, I had a band, a middle school band, and we had, as part of that, a jazz band. And I took my jazz band one year to a memory care facility to play for the people there. And the kids were a little afraid as these residents came in with their walkers and help of all sorts. But then they began to play. The children began to play, and the residents, many of them, got up and danced. Many of them were singing. Many of them were taking part in this music. And it really instilled in the kids how powerful jazz is and how powerful the whole umbrella of music is. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you.
You're doing a
Thank
great
you.
service.
Thank you. Thank you again, everyone.
I'm also a teacher, and I teach Alabama history and English, and our first chapter is Alabama music festivals and fairs. So we talk a lot about jazz and Zydeco and all of that. So our first chapter, do you have any programs for the youth or any resources for our youth?
Yes, we are, like I said, we're a nonprofit, and we're trying actively to partner with as many schools and as many organizations as we can. So get in touch with me after this, or our website is the columbusjazzsociety.com. We're also on Facebook, and yeah. So if anyone wants to get in touch with the Columbus Jazz Society, just get in touch with me after this or through the website. But yes, we are trying to do our best to help the next generations the best we can. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Thank you again so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.